With the release of Helix Stadium recently, I know there's going to be a lot of interest and a lot of questions about how the Agora amp models that are new to Stadium are going to compare with the existing Helix or HX amp models that we've had up until the release of the Stadium. Now, I'm going to do this video with a bunch of disclaimers, and my good friend Eric Klein over at Line 6 is probably going to be kind of upset with me because he has said, and I agree 100% with him, that a lot of the differences that you're going to hear, or shall I say feel, with Agora amp models are not going to come across in a YouTube video comparison. And I agree with them 100%. A lot of what is different with the Agora amp models is really going to come down to the feel when you're playing them. And I can say that as somebody who has used the Helix for many years and who was one of the first people to actually have Helix Stadium. So I've been working with it for quite some time now. And I've got to say the Agora amp models are incredible. But I do think if we look at this as a fun exercise, more for entertainment value, to go in and do a comparison just so people can sort of get satisfied. So there is a proper comparison done between the Agora amp models and the Helix, and I think there is no harm in doing this. But let's keep this in perspective, that there are things that are just not going to come across in a YouTube video. So first and foremost, let me take you through my setup today. I thought I would do this in just a fun way. I have a very basic Stadium preset setup based around the Brit 2203 MV Agora amp model. And I have that through a 412 Greenback 30 with the settings you see up on screen. And I just have a dab of dynamic ambience reverb after that, just so it doesn't have quite so bone dry a tone to it. So I'm going to play this with my beautiful 56 Les Paul Custom Shop P90 pickups. And that's what we have, a very basic little tone, nothing special, but no other processing going on with it. So now let's come over to the Helix and take a look and see that I have the Brit 2203 amp model here with the identical settings, as close as we can for the settings that are the same. You will notice differences here where we have sag, hum, ripple, bias, and bias X, whereas on the Stadium, we only have sag, ripple, and Z pre-post. So there are some differences, but I did keep the parameters identical. Now, that doesn't mean that that's going to make them sound the same. These are completely different amp models. So keep that in mind. And that's why I say all of this needs to be taken with a grain of salt. But I thought that would be a cool starting point just for fun to see how they compare when set to the identical settings. I went to the Helix 412 Greenback 30 and I set it with all of the same settings that we had on the cab. You'll see here 412 Greenback 30, same settings, same mic, same distance, same position, same angle, and then the same settings on the dynamic ambience verb. Now, to do this properly off screen here, you'll see that I have my little Cubase session set up, and I have to actually go in here and mute Stadium and engage Helix. But in the video editing process, I'll try to chop those down so that you don't have as much space in between hearing the two. So let's do this. Let's play a little bit of Stadium first and foremost, and then we'll switch over to Helix, and we'll just sort of compare what the differences are. Here's Stadium. And now here is Helix. Go back to Stadium. Back to Helix. Now, both of them sound great. Now, obviously quite different. The bottom end on the Helix is quite a bit more pronounced, I find. That is Stadium again. So that's Helix. So let's come in and take the bass control down to maybe 3. Maybe even more. The bass is quite a bit heavier on the Helix model. Again, that doesn't actually mean anything about quality of amp modeling. That's just a different situation. I've done a comparison with my real vintage JCM 800 from 1981, and it was the same sort of thing. I had to really adjust the tone stack to get things even close to being in the ballpark. So now let's bring this way down, and we'll just sort of see how that compares. Here's Stadium. Here's Helix. Probably went a little too far on that. Back to Stadium. So what do I think about this? Well, in playing it, and like I said, not something that's going to come through on a YouTube video, but in actually playing it, the Stadium Agora amp models actually do feel better. And it's a hard thing to even put into words. I think you will notice it when you play Stadium, and if you're very much used to the Helix versions. Is that to say that there's anything wrong with the Helix versions? Absolutely not. I could probably play either of these in the studio or live and immediately forget about the differences. Both are going to be totally passable. But there is something very special about the Agora amp models. But there we have the Helix, right? I might dial it in with a little bit more. Now, if we were to come back up to roughly where we started on the Helix, and then go back to Stadium and say, I kind of want a similar thing on Stadium, well, we could very likely come in here and boost the bass. Back to Helix. Anyways, that's all I want to say about that. I know that these videos are always controversial. They shouldn't be. Like I said, this is entertainment. This is for fun. I know people are going to want to hear comparison between the two. I volume match these as close as I can, but you kind of get a rough idea, as much as a YouTube video can give you, about this particular topic. And it might be fun to do this again with different amp models down the road. So let me know in the comments if you are interested in hearing any comparisons like that. Again, sorry, Eric, for doing this. I know you're probably going to be upset at me, but here we are. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate you spending your time with me. Please like the video, share it with anybody you think would get some use or enjoyment out of watching it. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'll be back with much more as far as Stadium goes. So stay tuned. We'll talk very soon. Ciao for now.